welcome to The Feast Life. I'm your host, Julie Ross, and today I have a special bonus episode for you. This is a clip from the recent goal setting class that I did. If you would like to purchase the whole goal setting class, which is over 3 hours of amazing content to help you reflect on the past year, to create a vision and a dream of what's possible for your future, and then to create actual goals and a plan to make that dream possible, you can still get access to the replays from this class by purchasing the Feast Life Planner. And so we'll have a link to that in the show notes. And once you purchase the planner, it has your goal setting pages in it, and you will get a link to the replays from this goal setting class. So I hope you enjoy just this little clip, and it will help you as you plan and prepare for 2024. All right, hello everyone. Welcome to our last day together, day 3. Let's just review real fast where we have been. So the first thing I had you do was like a year in review and go back through your phone, write down your highlights from each month of the year and celebrate. We want to go into the new year filled with hope and expectation. And the way that we do that is by filling our hearts and minds with gratitude for the things that have already happened in the past year. And it's so easy just to go through our days and we forget all these little moments. We might remember like some big things that happened in the year, but we forget those little things that add up to such a wonderful life. So go back, review those things, let your heart and mind be filled with gratitude for them. And then the next step was just to dream and have a vision play, allow ourselves to even think about what could be possible in our lives. And we looked like 5-10 years down the road, trying to get that like long vision, because when we do that, it can reveal so much about what is in our hearts and what our values are and what the things are that are super important to us. And that will help shape our goals for right now. Because if we have this dream or vision for somewhere we want to go, we might never get there. It might never look the way that we dream or possible, whatever, but at least knowing where our heart is and having a vision for that will impact our present and what we're doing right now and the goals that we want to set for this coming year. It's very interesting. I mentioned this in one of the other calls that I am down in Charleston, South Carolina for this week so I can work on this class and work on setting my own goals and creating stuff for my business and whatnot. And I walked over to this coffee shop this morning and it is so cute. It was so cute, y'all. It's called Bad Bunny. And it had all these cartoons on the wall with like bunny pictures. And the lady that was working there, she was so cute. She had a pink sweater on and pink earrings. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I love your pink. Pink's my favorite color. And she's like, no way, pink's my favorite color. And we start talking. So it turns out her and her husband, Rick, came here 11 months ago from Connecticut. And they were both like in corporate their whole lives, but they kind of just joked like, wouldn't it be fun someday when we retire to have a coffee shop and move somewhere where it's warm and we don't have to deal with these winters anymore? And so they just did it. It was, again, a dream, someday thing. It wasn't like they had it all planned out. She said they came here to visit. They fell in love with Charleston. A month later, the real estate agent's like, I got the perfect place. This restaurant's closing. You want to live? And there's a house that's attached to the coffee shop that they live in. And they are adorable. And it is so cute because they know the names of half the people that are coming in the coffee shop. And they're like, hey, Susie, or some guy came in with his baby. And she's like, oh, hey, Bobby, do you want a cookie? I mean, it was so cute. And I loved talking to them. And I was telling her about this class that I'm teaching. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like you are living the dream. You are doing what I'm talking about, right? Where you just have this kind of inkling in your heart and like, oh, wouldn't it be fun? Or, oh, wouldn't that be nice someday? And I said, was this like your whole lifetime plan? And you had all the steps planned out and you knew that when you turned age 60, you were going to sell your house and you were going to move here? She's like, absolutely not. She goes, I had no idea where it was just something that was fun. It was just something we would joke about and daydream about together sometimes. And like if you would have told me 5 years ago that I would be living in Charleston, South Carolina and running a coffee shop, I would have laughed in your face because that would have seemed impossible. And that's what's so fun about these daydreams, right? They seem impossible, right? And it's so interesting just how God can weave some of these things together. And it might not look in the end how we had daydreamed or envisioned, right? But it shows our heart. And she obviously had a heart for people. I mean, she was so friendly. She loved, like, it's this little borough part of Charleston, really historic homes. And just love the community and interacting with the people. And I was like, that is so cool. And I told her, I'm like, girl, you are like living my dream. I've always wanted to have a little bookshop, coffee shop. And I love people and just the thought of having this little neighborhood community, like where everybody knows your name kind of thing. Like that just sounds amazing. And it was just so fulfilling for me to get to talk to this person, because when you are around people who are passionate and on fire and doing the things in their life that lights them up, that lights you up as well. Have you ever noticed that when you're around people who just are so excited to be doing what they're doing and so full of life? It really does light up the whole room and touches so many people. And that's what we want. We want to have that for ourselves so we can give that to our family, even if that dream or that vision doesn't come true anytime soon. It's still that passion and that excitement for life and what is possible. Charlotte Mason said that quote that's at the beginning of your workbook: life should be all living, not a mere tedious passing of time. And so we want to get to that point where we're not just in this survival mode, but that we are living with intention, living with purpose, so that our days do feel full of life. All right. And then after we reached for what's possible, today we are going to resolve. So we reflected, we looked back, we reached forward to what could be possible. And today we're going to resolve. We're actually going to set our goals and create a plan for our first steps that we are together. So I just wanted to start off sharing this quote that we didn't get to the other day by C.S. Lewis. I love this quote so much. He said, "Indeed, if we consider the unblushing promises of reward and the staggering nature of the rewards promised in the Gospels, it would seem that our Lord finds our desires not too strong, but too weak. We are half-hearted creatures fooling about with drink and sex and ambition when infinite joy is offered us, like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in a slum because he can't imagine what is meant by the offer of a holiday at the sea. We are far too easily pleased." And some of us, like we talked about yesterday, we stopped dreaming. Our lives didn't go the way we planned. Things happened that we didn't like and we don't want to happen again. And so we close off our hearts and we just go, okay, well, I'm just going to survive and I'm just going to settle here and hope nothing else bad happens and hold my breath waiting for the other shoe to drop, and not take that purposeful action for the things that we do actually want, or even take the time to ask ourselves, what is it that we actually want? And we are far too easily pleased. There is so much goodness and beauty in this world, and so many possibilities and so many exciting things to see and do and learn and experience. And we want to open our hearts to the possibility of all of those. And sometimes we can numb our dreams. Again, our brains like to keep us safe. I'm going to keep repeating this because sometimes our brains can work against us, and we want to be aware of that. And we want to purposely train our brains to know that it's okay. Uncertainty is okay. And to live in that tension of between the now and the not yet. And I love this Bible verse where it says, "Wake up, sleeper, rise from the dread, and Christ will shine on you." Some of us need to wake up. We are asleep to our lives because we numb those feelings, and we can numb them a million different ways with a million different bad habits, right? Or just busyness, because we don't want to experience those uncomfortable emotions of being uncertain, of being afraid, of doubting ourselves. We don't want to feel those things. And so it's a lot easier and safer just to go through life half asleep here and numb to all of that. But God has so much more for us, and we need to wake up. It goes on to say, "Be careful then how you live, not as unwise, but as wise, making the most of every opportunity because the days are evil." And we have such a short window to be here as a person who my children are now growing and leaving the nest. Such a short window of time that we are there with our children, that we're homeschooling them, that we're having this opportunity to influence them and grow. And now I'm at the season of my life where I'm like talking to Carol at the coffee shop about what am I going to do when I retire someday, and dreaming about playing with my grandchildren on the beach. It's a totally different phase of life. I'm so grateful to be where I am, and I don't regret things. I've learned to change that story again and be grateful for the things and the lessons I've learned. But there's a part of me that wishes I would have learned this stuff earlier, that I wouldn't have been asleep for so long to the things that were happening in my life and the amazing opportunities that I have. So I just want to encourage you with that before we start setting our goals, that this is so, 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 so important. What you are doing right now, the time that you've taken the past couple of days, the time that you're going to focus on this, most people do not do this. Again, 95% of New Year's resolutions go unmet because people just pick some arbitrary thing and like, oh yeah, I might work on that this year. And they don't know what is really important to them, what they really value, and they don't even write it down most of the time. And if your brain can't see it on a regular basis, remember I told you I write my goals out almost every day. My brain needs to see that it's okay. It's okay to grow and stretch. And last year at this time, I launched my first coaching course. It was called Propel. And I know some of you in here were in that class, which is so great. I love seeing you guys again. And for the whole month of December, back in 2022, I wrestled with whether or not I should do this class. I was terrified. I had never done a life coaching class program. I had just met with people one-on-one through my course and my graduation and the accountability and progress that I had to make that first year of being a coach. But I knew I really didn't have the time to keep meeting one-on-one, and I really wanted to have a group program. But launching that terrified me because I'm like, people are going to laugh. People are going to be like, who does Julie think she is? And what if it fails? And what if no one signs up? And what if I like don't actually know what I'm doing and I can't actually help anybody? And the what ifs and the what ifs and the what ifs and the what ifs were like suffocating me. I would literally wake up in the morning and I would just start crying. And I couldn't figure out why I was crying. I'm like, I'm not sad. What are the tears about? And then I realized like the tears are fear, kind of like when you're a little kid and you're in the corner and you're afraid when you cry. Like I was that actually terrified, but I wasn't like actually thinking about it until I realized like, where are these emotions coming from, and started to process them in a healthy way and go, oh, yes, I'm terrified. And then started writing out all those thoughts, all those fears, all the things that like were literally terrifying me to do it. And I realized I had a choice. I could go, yeah, you know what? Never mind. All that money I invested in to become a coach and all that stuff, all that work I did, that was really nice, but I'm just going to play it safe and just kind of stay in my own little bubble here. Or I could do it scared. And so I'm like, okay, it's time to rip off the Band-Aid and do it scared. And that's when I posted online, hey, I have an announcement coming next week. I'm starting a program. Stay tuned for more information. And once I put it out there in the world, I knew I would do it because it's keeping my word is super important to me. And so sometimes it takes letting people know what your goals are. But be careful with that because a lot of people can be discouraging. They want to keep you safe. They want to keep you where they're comfortable and how they know you and how they interact with you. They don't want you to grow and change sometimes either. And sometimes that's subconscious. They don't even realize they're doing that. But when you put yourself out there like, hey, I'm doing this, or you make a commitment, and we'll talk about that with our goal setting. Like when I wanted to run a half marathon, I looked a few months into the future and I paid $80 to sign up for that half marathon because I knew if I put my money on it, I would actually do it. And if it wasn't like, oh, someday it would be really nice if I could run 13 miles. That'd be a really fun thing to do. I would never do it. Okay. So I had to have, and we'll talk about that with our goals. We have to have accountability, but sometimes it takes doing it scared. We feel like we have to wait until we feel confident and we have it all figured out before we take any action on the dreams and the things that are really in our heart. And if you keep waiting for that to happen, you're going to be waiting a really long time. So let's look at our goals and let's commit that we're going to do some of these things, even if we're scared. All right, let me jump in. I see several messages in the chat. I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything as I keep talking. Yes, all of you are saying, I don't dream anymore. This is so, so, so key. And I'm so glad you're here just to allow yourself to do it. At first, it takes realizing you're not even doing it, right? And then you can change. Shay, hey, sweetheart. I'm so glad you're here. That's what I'm moving away from and really working on the what ifs. Yes, yes, these what ifs are so hard. Oh, we are owner's enemy for sure. Oh, Wendy. Hi, Wendy. I'm so glad you're here. Thank you for going ahead with Propel. What I learned from you this past year and having you in your class were a top highlight of my life. Oh, Wendy, I just love you. Thank you so much. You're so sweetheart. And Katie, yes, you were in the class as well. I'm so glad you were there. I'm trying to start a business and do not have time, but doing it scared. Yes, Joyce, we're never going to have time. They're never going to have time for the things that we want to do in our life. We have to make the time. And if you have been a part of my back to school class, I did this where it's like you put rice in a jar, and the rice resembles like all the little tasks you have to do: laundry, taking the kids to soccer practice, grocery shopping. And then you have your rocks, and your rocks are the things, your goals, the things that are super important to you. So if you put the rice in first and you fill your day up with all these little tasks, and I have to go do this for this person and do that for this person, then you try to fit the rocks in the jar, they don't fit. But you take that jar, empty it out, put the rocks in, put your priorities in first, and then the other little tasks will fill in all around it. So you can fit in the same amount of rice, and you could actually fit in your rocks because you're making them your priority. And that's, if you do have the planner, like when you're planning out your week, I always say plan out those priority things, put them on the calendar first. These are your non-negotiables. These are the things that have to happen, and then let the other things kind of fill around it. Because yeah, you're never going to have, it's never like, oh, I have an extra 4 hours in my day, I'm going to go make a new planner. No, it was like, okay, this is something I really want to do. And how can I block off time each week until we can get this planner finished? Yes, such a good point, Shay. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Just what's the next step? You don't have to figure it out. Like I've said, you don't have to have steps 4,000 figured out by now before you can take action. You will not, and you'll be paralyzed with fear and the what ifs and overthinking, and you won't do anything. So part of this process, in order to accomplish your goals, is to take one little tiny step at a time, and you'll keep going in the right direction. Started homeschooling while working, and my farm and small business took a back seat. I had the same fear you described, Julie, so gave it up. I'm planning to start it back in our daily routine. Yes, Jamie. Okay, you have to fill me in. I want to hear all the details about it. That sounds awesome. All right, so let's go on to the actual goal setting here. Yay. Okay, now we're going to focus on 3 pillars. So I want you to think of it as a 3-legged stool here. If you have, like Jamie or some other people, like if you have a small business or some kind of other business that you're doing on the side, you might have 4 pillars. So you might have like a regular chair, or you could have a 3-legged stool, either one, okay? But you're going to focus on these 3 areas, because when we come to goal setting, it's like, oh yeah, so I want to lose 20 pounds. I want to run a 5K. I want to organize my garage. I'm going to pay off all my debt. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to solve world hunger. I'm going to completely change everything we're doing in our homeschool, and, yada, yada, yada. And that's great. And we did that brainstorming page, and that's great to get your mind thinking of the possibilities and thinking of the different kind of categories and areas of your life that you might want to work on. But if you think you're going to do all those goals in the course of a year, you are going to be overwhelmed. And then what happens? You're not going to do any of it. Yeah. So we want to really narrow it down here and focus on these. And when we focus just 3, maybe 4, like I said, depending on your situation, or you might only still want 3, and you can kind of combine some things here so that, okay, I'm focusing on these 3. 3 is much more manageable than 10, 20 goals. Okay. So I broke those 3 pillars down into, you want a goal that's for you, on you and your personal growth and how you can change as a person and grow. That could be how you want to change. Well, I'll go into them. Let me just go over the overview. So it's, you have a pillar for you have a pillar for your homeschool, and then you have a pillar that's like home, family, life, or that could be like a work one too, if that makes more sense to you. Okay. So let's dive into what these 3 pillars are. And you're going to want to turn in your planner to this page. So there's a page for you to kind of break apart each of these pillars, and we're going to dive really deep in now. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Feast Life podcast. Until next time, remember, life is a feast. Let's savor it. And if today's episode was helpful for you, you might be interested in joining a coaching course that I'm starting at the end of January called the Confident Homeschool Mom. In order to find out more about that, go to thefeastlife.me/join. Again, in order to find out more about my coaching course, the Confident Homeschool Mom, go to thefeastlife.me/join.